week's episode of Parasyte the Maxim, Shinichi and Miki go into battle against Miki and his multiple parasites, and it looks like Tamura Reiko is about to be put on the chopping block. The action in this week's episode was pretty freaking tops. It was really fun to watch. It kind of reminded me of the Terminator franchise, in particular Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and a lot of that had to do with Shinichi's opponent Miki, who apparently is a being comprised of 5 different parasites, each with their own personality and abilities, and they're able to switch to different body parts and limbs, and even take over the central brain of this body. And what's a really nice twist is that one character, Goto, is actually one of the parasites which inhabit this body, and when he takes over in the battle, he is awesome. I especially love how he's able to transform both his arms and his legs into razor-sharp weapons, and he clearly takes over the battle at this point. It almost seems like Shinichi has Miki completely figured out until Goto takes over, especially when he frickin' decapitates him, which is a really slick and awesome scene and definitely well animated. And I really wish there wasn't as much dialogue during that action scene, because I found myself trying to look back and forth between the incredible animation and trying to understand really what was going on. It was a scene that I actually had to watch twice in order to really enjoy the animation, and it was really worth seeing. But when Goto takes over and starts climbing through the trees like a freakish, disgusting Lost Plaga monkey, Shinichi makes a pretty quick escape when he decides to jump on the back of this tow truck, but Goto is able to transform his legs into these nasty parasitic cheetah legs, which allows him to catch up with the truck and have this really intense battle with him while they're about to collide with this other vehicle, and Miki sneakily goes in there, grabs the steering wheel, and pulls the truck over so that the other truck ends up smacking right into Goto and sends him skidding across the pavement. What's really messed up about this scene is the truck that Shinichi is on, the driver, just decides to drive away after all of this. It's basically a hit and run, and these other 2 guys get out of the truck, they see what's going on, and they see this guy get up who has these nasty tentacles, and they're pretty calm about it, which is pretty messed up, and they're going to pay for it because Goto needs blood, and considering that there are 2 humans next to him, he goes to town on him. He literally just grabs the guy, bites his freaking head off, and then just freaking cuts the other guy in half. It's a really great way to set up this week's episode, and it's definitely one of the best action scenes, probably the best action that I've seen from Parasyte the Maxim thus far, especially with Goto just running through the trees and through the forest. It looked really intense. The other story in this week's episode actually follows up on the private investigator. His family is brutally murdered by the parasites as they're trying to find him, and they even blow up his office, and he gets caught by the police, and this is a pretty strange scene because they don't know whether to believe if this is something that the parasites did or if this was something that maybe he did himself. However, he is willing to get up some information to the cops because he wants to get revenge against these guys and he wants to avenge his family, and that means going after Tamura Reiko. And in this week's episode, it looks like Reiko is finally about to be thrown under the bus by the other parasites because they're starting to finally become a little wary of why she's becoming slightly more sympathetic with humans, or at least accepting the fact that they are a threat, especially in their large numbers and in that one portion of their brain which is going to set off their let's kill all the parasites button. So it's pretty crazy because at the end of the episode, after breastfeeding her child, and again, this is a very symbolic scene just to show that she's becoming much more sympathetic with humans. She's starting to maybe even have feelings for her child at this point. She is accosted by 3 different parasites who get ready to throw down with her, ending this week's episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Parasyte the Maxim? Creepy parasites fighting in the forest is badass, my friends. This week's episode opened up with a big action scene, which was like something out of a big Hollywood blockbuster, and I really appreciated that. It really got my attention. I'm glad they immediately followed up on Miki, who is a really interesting character, mostly in his personality, and I do like the fact that even when he was decapitated and he came back to the body, he still retained a little bit of that personality, and he even looked like his head was basically still trying to take its form as it slowly crawled back and formed back into his arms, which had really good animation. All the parasite animation in this week's episode, during the battles, during the forest, during the transformation sequences, all looked really good. That's one of the biggest strengths about this series, is how they animate those creepy-ass parasites, how fluid and elastic and sharp and dangerous and quick they are. It's freaking amazing. And what I really liked about this episode as well is that they actually did go back to the private investigator. I thought that was a story that they were just going to sort of drop in the previous episode, but it looks like he's about to get tangled in some real crazy shit. I don't know if he's going to try and do something about these 3 parasites that are attacking Reiko, or if he's just going to let them go to town on her. It's really strange. I'm not really sure how he's going to get out of this sticky situation, and considering everything that's happened to him at this point, I imagine just like Tom or Reiko, he's on the chopping block as well. I just don't really see things ending too well for him. The other thing about this week's episode was that Shinichi was getting to his father, trying to contact him and letting him know that he just has to get out of the house because he's going to be killed by the monster that killed his mother. And it was a really tense scene because he couldn't explain anything about what was really going on. He just had to put his full trust in his father. And this scene is good because it shows that both, Shinichi and his dad have really come a long way since the death of his mother, which really wasn't that long ago. So it really shows that they do have a very strong relationship. And I thought it was really cool that Migi is able to create like these weird pockets inside of his arm, like how he was able to take the money from that truck and keep it inside of his arm the entire time. But this was all, of course, again, for the sake of survival. He always has to bring that up. He just doesn't want to be Shinichi's buddy at all. You know, they're basically just roommates trying to pay the frickin' rent together. So yeah, this week's episode was pretty frickin' action-packed. I really liked the revelation about Goto being one of the parasites in this body. There actually being 5 of them. That's a really crazy twist, and I can't wait to see more of what this guy is going to do. Clearly, I think he's going to be the big bad for this series. He's probably going to be the main villain, probably one of the final opponents for both Shinichi and Migi, and I can't wait to see how that is going to go down. The animation, the artwork looked really great this week. The voice acting, the music, as always, was fantastic and really good, and there was also a little bit of cameo appearances from some other characters, like Satomi Murano, who was trying to return Shinichi's bag at the end. So this episode pretty much had something for everyone if you're a fan of the characters from Parasyte. But you're all going to remember that badass action from this week's episode, and why not? It was awesome and definitely worth checking out. So, if you've been following Parasyte the Maxim, check out this week's episode. It's definitely one of the best ones thus far, and definitely one that I think is probably my favorite episode thus far. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 5 out of 5. That's right, my friends. Pretty damn good episode that I got no complaints on. I especially loved all that little tease at the very end of this week's episode where Tama Reiko is about to go to town with 3 other parasites. So check out this week's episode. It was really exciting. Great stuff. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and like the video. And before you guys leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Parasyte the Maxim. What do you think of Shinichi's brand new opponent, Goto, and the 4 other parasites? What do you want to see more from these guys? And what do you want to see from the rest of Parasyte the Maxim? Remember, guys, if you have not subscribed to our channel, what's wrong with you? It's real easy to do. All you gotta do is click on this icon right up here. That way you can see all of our latest anime, manga reviews, and our brand new podcast show. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And some good ways to support our channel is we have a PayPal link you can donate to if you want to. You can also use our Amazon bookmark link. Whenever you buy something on Amazon, it will help support our channel. But the best way to support our channel is to simply watch our videos. Thank you guys again for watching. Super Kami Guru 9000 out.